we got two big segments coming up, arrow pointing up and predict a commit. We'll start with arrow pointing up. Jordan, I'll let you start.
All right, I've got two. The first one, I can't not do this. College basketball.
Yeah,
I have to pick college basketball right before March Madness, or if you're listening to this, we've seen some of the first four and stuff like that. I did want to point this out, and I want to give Ben an opportunity to shout out some important people in his life. On Wednesday, when we were talking to Blue Cane and Silas Demery Jr., someone asked, hey, what are your early memories of March Madness, NCAA tournament? Blue said, being in the driveway and you're saying the clock's running down and you take a shot and, you miss. Oh, you got a couple more seconds. You get another shot. And that totally spoke to my childhood. I played a game I used to call 10 seconds. And it's like you're kind of, you're trying to beat the buzzer. But then this is the opportunity I want to give you. Silas brought up being in school and just like begging teachers like, hey, can you put the tournament on? Can we watch? So I'll go first. Any teachers that did that back when you were in school? There's two that I can think of offhand, and this is kind of hilarious. Philip Black and Danny White, Coach Black and Coach White at Jasper Middle School back in the day. I seem to remember them, wheeling the TV in and Coach Black was a PE coach, and there wasn't a lot of moving around that day during March Madness. So shout out Coach Black and Coach White, looking out for the kids and letting them watch some March Madness.
It's only right for kids to get to watch March Madness. Like, it is, to your point, like, I remember being, and I was like the kid in school that would be the most annoying kid trying to get teachers to be able to do. Like, I remember, you bring it up, I hadn't thought about this in forever, but I had third grade teachers, Miss Bartholomew and Miss Blondheim, and this was like real classes too. And it didn't matter to me. I was just so deranged. When you're a kid and you get into March Madness, that's when people become degenerate gamblers, probably for the first time, which, again, we live in the state of Georgia. You're not allowed to do that. But for anybody who lives outside of the state of Georgia that is allowed to do that, this is the best time of year.
The one thing I wanted to say with that, you said you were the most annoying kid. Thank God you grew out of that.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you feel that way. Yeah.
Only other thing I want to do, arrow pointing up, Conan O'Brien. I don't know if you watched the Oscars. I have no idea how time works right now. I don't know how long ago that was. Very funny on there, and he's already said he's going to host the Oscars again next year. Love Conan. I was a little too young for some of his NBC stuff, but he gets screwed over by Jay Leno. I can remember some of the early TBS stuff, which was really funny. I'm a huge Conan fan, and I'm looking forward to the Oscars next year.
Did anyone get robbed?
I was a little surprised that Conclave didn't win more awards, but truthfully, that was one of the only Best Picture movies that I had a chance to see. I feel like I did not do a very good job of watching a bunch of movies, but that Conclave is the only one that immediately comes to mind there.
I watched Conclave after the fact. So the Oscars, sometimes the Oscars is for those of us that aren't as, I don't know, religious.
Cultured.
Yeah, cultured. We're not as cultured as you are. The Oscars almost serves as like a marketing tool for me to be like, oh, that was a really good movie that I should probably watch. So that's what I did with Conclave after the Oscars.
Yeah, apparently Anora cleaned up. I haven't seen that one yet, but I think it won practically all the awards.
All right, arrow pointing up for me. I don't need to get into this one, but white wide receivers, Georgia. I joked with Vance Spafford about this back at the Future 50 a year ago. He didn't have a Georgia offer at the time, and I said, I know this is going to sound weird, but being that I cover Georgia recruiting, I have to be acutely aware of your style of wide receiver, it feels like. So shout out Brady Marchese for, adding to the punchline that's going to be going on for years and years to come. Landon Roldan did us no favors by putting on that 84. Like, they are just playing into the bit as much as possible. I wanted to call this out. I don't know if you saw this. Arrow pointing up. And this is, I'm the most shameless person on planet Earth. The Junkyard Dawgcast. I don't know if you've seen this, Jordan, and I want to credit accordingly. Million Podcasts was doing a bunch of different articles on top podcasts in certain categories. top 100 SEC football podcasts. Junkyard Dawgcast comes in at number 12 on the list. Jordan, what do you think about that? Us having the 12th best, according to this article, SEC football podcast.
Well, see, you're going to take it as a compliment, but as someone who listens to Kirby Smart every week, why the hell are we not top 10? Well, we gotta grind. We gotta no more flubs on these ad reads. No more of this technology we're having issues with. The little AirPod, issue I just had, inexcusable. We are going for the top 10, but no, super cool to see that. And yeah, hey, fuel to the fire, man. We want top 10 in 2026.
See, I disagree. I think that the AirPod snafu is the reason why we're in the top 12. That's a college football playoff team right there. I mean, we are, I think we should be proud of that. We're just behind Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik, so we got something to strive for. Maybe a little in Georgia rivalry, the Punt and Paps podcast at number 13. I don't know if this is ranked or if it's just listing them out or whatever. But hey, Aaron Murray, Drew Butler, Peachtree Ridge grad, maybe a little Peachtree Ridge, Georgia podcast rivalry in the Georgia sphere. All jokes aside, respect to all of them and all the podcasters, but also shout out to Million Podcasts for showing some respect to the squad. Gotta love that. So yeah, had to shamelessly plug that. And then you took my other arrow pointing up, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity to put you on the spot here. Best time of year, college basketball, Thursday at 12:15 Eastern, I think is the first tip-off time. The next 36 hours are like the best 36 hours in sports, in my opinion. But I'm going to put you on the spot. I know that when is this actually going to go live, this show?
I think we might do it, I don't know, like 11 a.m. Eastern. What do you think? Give people give them something to do. Look, we all know y'all are going to be sitting around waiting on this Georgia game. Don't lie to us. I don't care. You've called out of work. Oh, there must be a buck. Come on. But you guys will have time to watch this before the basketball game. That's my thinking.
Okay, so there are a couple of reasons I wanted to ask that. One, our predictions article will already be up on the site, I would assume. So anything that you're saying here is not going to be giving away anything that you say there. Two, I think that enough of our audience is going to listen to this on their way home from work or potentially even Saturday morning when they're going for a morning run on Saturday, or maybe you're the type of person where you catch up on your podcast on Monday morning on your way to work. So I think there is enough of a scenario where people are listening to this after the fact that I can still make you look bad. So I want you to tell me exactly what happened in the Georgia-Gonzaga game.
All right. Gonzaga got out to an 18-5 lead.
God, the hater. He's a hater already, for the record, folks.
But then Georgia worked their way back. It's a 6-point game at halftime, and it stays within 8 to 10 points for the majority of the game. Georgia got off to a really rough start shooting-wise. And you could kind of tell that the stage got to some of those guys. Few turnovers more than we expected from Silas Emery Jr. But Georgia shoots its way back into this game. Silas Emery Jr. hits a couple of threes. Dakota LaFew, very impressive performance. It is a very competitive final 20 minutes. Ultimately, Graham Ike for Gonzaga hit some big shots down the stretch. Gonzaga gets some big free throws late. They win at 72-64. Obviously, a very disappointing outcome for Georgia, but for the way the game set up and the early minutes, given what Gonzaga's done, everybody holds their head high, and Gonzaga upsets Houston in the round of 32 and gets ready for a big run from there.
All right, so you were wrong. Georgia beat Gonzaga. And the people that are listening to this on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, they already know this. So now Georgia gets into the second round. What happens in the second round now that Georgia's in the second round?
They play pretty well, but Houston is just on a death march to the Final Four. Houston winds up winning that game 81-65, 16-point win for the Cougars. And, I think that Kelvin Sampson owes Mike White a solid because they beat a really good Gonzaga team, and that Houston team is going to have a chance to go win a championship because of it.
Okay, well, SIU Edwardsville actually upset Houston in the first round, so that probably changes the math on that one a little bit. But all right, I am going to give me your Final Four. Who you got in the Final Four?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna go Auburn. I'm gonna go Texas Tech. I think everybody got on the Florida bandwagon, and I'm officially zagging while everyone else zigs. I'm gonna say that Gonzaga. And I'm gonna say Gonzaga, and then I will say Duke,
Okay.
and that it is Duke and Auburn in the championship, and the Duke Blue Devils win the championship.
We have the same champion, actually. I have Duke. Oh, goodness gracious. We are really testing my ability to remember my bracket.
It's tough when you're not looking at it, because I said Gonzaga, and then I went, wait a second. So it's a lot harder.
Who's the two in Georgia? I think I have Tennessee out of the Midwest. I've got Florida out of the West, and then I have Michigan State actually out of the South. I'm not as much of an Auburn basketball homer as you obviously are. I actually have them losing in the Sweet 16.
God, you really are on the message board, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I am. I was born in the message board world, but then I have Duke beating Florida in the national championship, which, you mentioned what are your college basketball memories. I'm one of those sorry people that grew up thinking that I was a Duke basketball fan, realizing after the fact that I didn't actually want to be a Duke basketball fan. But I grew up in the Duke basketball world. I mean, I had a 91, 92 championship shirt that was way oversized for me when I was like 5 years old. One of my first real, my feelings were hurt sports memories was Duke losing to Connecticut in the 1998 national championship, where they had, I want to say Paul Pierce, maybe Ray Allen potentially. I might be missing up exactly what their roster was, but that UConn Duke national championship. And then, I've mentioned before, I grew up in a world where one of my best friends is a Florida fan. I went to Billy Donovan summer camps every single year when they were winning their national championships. I remember there was a year Corey Brewer was actually my team counselor at the camp that I was at. So for me, Duke versus Florida, there's sort of a nostalgic national championship there if that ends up being the case, because I went to a lot of Duke and Florida basketball camps through my youth.
I wanted to make sure and mention, because wide receivers was one of your arrows pointing up. Cooper Kupp to the Seahawks. I felt we had to say that. That was killing me. That had to make the cut.
No, you are 100% right to jump in on that one as well.